So this project is called This Is Our Town, and it was a two-part project funded by the Heritage Lottery Fund to rewrite and rediscover the history of Swindon between the dates of 1901 and 1913, as correlated in the play Our Town, originally written by Thornton Wilder. We took this brilliant classic play and we rewrote it to be based in Swindon. So there's lots of uncelebrated things going on in the town that a lot of the young people that we work with regularly didn't necessarily know about. So they got to do research and help us create that script.
I was partly involved in research, so we mainly focused on looking at names, on looking at how the life in Swindon was different to how it is now. And also I was involved in the acting, which was quite fun, getting to bring to life what you'd looked at.
I was part of the writing group and I was also assistant director. And I also found characters for people to become.
So I was involved with This Is Our Town performance at the Steam Museum. I played the role of Howard Webb.
We filmed some monologues based on things that people had written in the writers' workshop.
We did a lot of research, kind of looking things up about the past. If we found something interesting, we would follow it up, like the tram disaster in 1906. And some of us went to the Swindon Library and to a cemetery nearby to look at names that would have been around at the same time.
We went to the Swindon Wiltshire History Centre in Chippenham.
And we got out like the maps, the prison records, and some other documents, and we just kind of researched them and had a look.
We're looking for someone who murdered their barmaid, who murdered a barmaid in a pub, I think. Yeah, we're going through all the criminal records from like the early 1900s now, trying to find him.
Basically, it was a woman that got murdered by her lover because he was jealous or something like that. And it happened in the Goddard Arms pub.
1903.
Yeah.
I think the hardest part about working on This Is Our Town was trying to engage with the time period, because it's so distant to how it is now, and it's quite difficult to understand how people thought then.
People made do with what they had. It was a lot more simple and peaceful, and I don't know, it's quite charming really.
And there were certain things that you could find out so much of, but there were also certain things which you could find like one news article and that was it. So it was difficult to try and find the balance of what I wanted to put in versus like what I couldn't put in because there was no information on it.
The script was then turned into a full performance with 20 young people, actors involved in it, and we had young directors, we had young writers working on it in all different capacities. We had young assistants in the design working on the text. There was lots of different learning, all based around this heritage theme.
The project was about trying to show how life was back in the early 1900s. It effectively followed the lives of two people through from when they were children to when they got married, and a bit into their adulthood as well, just showing normal day-to-day things that were happening.
The characters were real people who lived in Swindon or around the general area who lived at the time. And I think that their stories are very interesting and they go unnoticed. If you sift through all these names, eventually you'll find like the Golden character who lived a very extraordinary life in Swindon, even though he wasn't perhaps the most educated man or the most wealthy man or the most, the most highest in society. They were just interesting and they needed to be brought to life.
My favourite part of the whole project was probably performing it, because it was gratifying to see everything coming together, all of the research, all of the writing and all of the acting, and see how it had progressed from the start to finish.
My favourite part about the project was learning everything, because everything was different and everything worked differently. It was a completely different world, really.
I liked performing in a different place as well, because Steam is a very interesting place to perform in, because it is a museum based around Swindon. It's a different space to like on a stage or something.
I enjoyed the rehearsals because you explored different parts of Swindon and you took on the character and you saw what it was like for different relationships with families, and you met new people along the way as well.
Definitely the performances there it introduced me to drama, because before this project I didn't have anything to do with drama. Didn't even have interest or anything, and with doing that project opened my eyes to the world of drama and theatre, and I thought a lot to them for it.
If I was giving advice to someone interested in running their own heritage project, I would say to follow up things that really interest you.
Find those real life important bits, and then kind of you can do your own take on it, because it happened, but we weren't there. We don't know how it happened at the time, so it'd be good if you found those important events, you know, those events that happened every so often, and then you just make them really interesting. And
just like keep an open mind, take all the scripts, anything related into new, and just try and follow through 100% and give no dedication to it.
I originally liked Swindon, but now I kind of have a lot more respect for it and like it a lot more, because I find it a lot more interesting than I originally did, because going into it, doing research about it and finding those little bits that make it more interesting.
It's nice to know about the history of Swindon, because I didn't really know anything about it before, and it's like just weird to see the change in what it was like back then from what it is now, because it is quite a big change.
From doing this project, there was a side to Swindon that I'd never seen before, and it makes me very proud to be part of Swindon. Yeah.